Hey there, I'm Edgar Alanis, and I'll be answering a couple of questions for you guys today. So, question number one: what is your job title and what do you do every day? So, my job title is a production engineer. So, I work in a chemical plant, and so what a production engineer does is that, in summary, we make sure the plant keeps running, right? So, we make sure we have enough raw materials. We calculate the number of raw materials that we have. We make sure that any issues with the plant are resolved. So any problems with reactors, distillation columns, tanks, pumps, and things of that nature, we make sure that those get resolved, and then we find the problem so that we can fix things and continue making product. So question number two is what made you choose this career? So I was always good at math, and I was always good at chemistry, and so being good at math and good at chemistry, kind of lended itself to picking a career in the sciences. So actually, initially, I wanted to become a chemistry major, but what I noticed was that with an engineering career, you have more opportunity with career-wise, and you have more opportunity salary-wise. And so I chose to go down the engineering route because, again, you make more money as an engineer than you do as a chemist or a professor or things of that sort. Question number three: what skills and education did you need to get this job? So in order to get or to become a production engineer, I needed to get my bachelor's in science in engineering. So I graduated from the University of Houston with a chemical engineering degree in 2020. And so that enabled me to pursue a career in engineering in the chemical industry. So having that degree played a vital role in me, being able to get a job within the chemical industry. So number five: what is one challenge in your job and how do you handle it? So working in a chemical plant is a very stressful environment. I'm sure you guys have seen incidents on the news where things went wrong in a chemical plant. So you had a fire or an explosion or something of the sort, right? And so working in a chemical plant, it's very serious business because any mistakes, and it could lead to an event like that. So making sure that everything that we do is done safely is the number one priority, because in a plant, any decision that we make can impact the community, it can impact the workers, and so there's a lot of lives that are at stake with the work that we do, and so that is always, I guess, the most stressful part of working in a chemical plant as an engineer. All right, so number six: did you always want to do this job when you were a kid? So I think I alluded to this earlier. No, that I didn't envision myself becoming a chemical engineer. In fact, I always wanted to be. I knew that I wanted to do something within the sciences, and so I always liked chemistry. Chemistry, in my opinion, it's kind of like working with Legos but in real life, right? So you take a compound and you take a number of compounds and you can make pretty much anything you want out of those compounds. And so being able or having the knowledge to be able to do that is very cool, right? So being able to do math, being able to do science or the chemistry behind it, it is very neat because it enables you to do things that most other people may not understand or may not be able to do. And so part of that, is part of the reason why you have a higher salary as an engineer, is because you can do things that other people may not be able to do. So question number seven: what is something surprising or fun about your job? So the most fun aspect of the job that I have is being able to troubleshoot and solve problems, right? So I think there's kind of a reward mechanism every time that we solve a problem that arises at the plant. So there's been a couple of instances where we've had failed equipment, either distillation columns or pumps, and it was my job to figure out, what went wrong with that piece of equipment that prevented it from continuing to run. That way we didn't run into that same issue again in the future. And so me, having the background that I had, or that I have, it again enabled me to figure, certain difficult problems out, and to be able to implement them so that we could, continue making production and making, better production numbers for the upcoming years. A good example of that is, so I recently took up a role working at a chemical plant here in Bayport, and in that plant we had a reactor that wasn't making as much product as we thought it could make. And so part of my job was coming in and figuring out, well, why wasn't that reactor making as much product as we thought it could make. And so by doing a lot of math and doing a lot of theoretical work, we figured out the reason for it. We made some changes, and now that reactor is making more product than it was in years prior. So being able to solve those problems is a big source of pride for someone that works in my field. So I would say that's the most fun aspect of the job. Do you use reading, math, or writing in your job, and how? So yes to all three. So there's a lot of reading, because you're reading equipment manuals, you're reading instructions, you're reading engineering drawings. So there's a lot of reading that goes into this job, as well as math, as I alluded to earlier. So every day there is some sort of math going on. Matter of fact, I have a notebook here with some math that we had to do for a problem that we had going on a few days ago in one of our reactors. And so math is a fundamental part of our job, and so we rely heavily on mathematical skills to troubleshoot. And the other thing is writing. There's a lot of writing, right? So there's a lot of people that work in the chemical plant in different areas, and so there has to be clear communication amongst all of those groups. So the maintenance groups, the operations groups, communication is very key to a plant operation. So being able to write and communicate effectively and clearly is very important, because as I mentioned, when there is ambiguity in a plant, that could be problematic and that could be dangerous, right? Because if somebody misinterprets something, then that could lead to a incident in which you could have a spill, a fire, or worse. So clear communication is very important in a plant. So reading, math, writing, all very important for the role. What advice would you give to a kid who wants to be just like you? So again, part of going back to the previous question, I think being very proficient in mathematics and being very proficient in reading and writing is very important. So if anybody is pursuing a field in engineering, I think it's important that you focus, number one, on your math, because as I mentioned, you're doing some sort of math every single day. There is not a day that goes by where you do not do some sort of math, even if it's simple math. So math is very important. Science, your chemistries, physics, that's also very important, because there's times where you have to use those skills that you learned in college to be able to do, solve problems with regards to thermodynamics, fluid dynamics. And so being able to do those calculations and to do the math that goes behind it to solve those problems is very important. And as I mentioned, if you want to be good at this job, you have to be a clear communicator. And so being proficient in reading and being proficient in writing is a very essential part of the job. Number 10, if your job was a superhero, what would its power be? I think the power that this job would be is being able to make something out of nothing. So as a chemical engineer, again, you have deep understanding of chemistry and mathematics and physics. And so what that enables you to do is you're able to take any two compounds that you want, and if you have enough chemistry knowledge and enough math knowledge, you can make whatever you want, right? Because as I mentioned, if once you have the chemistry knowledge, it's kind of like playing Legos, but in real life. And so you can make compounds out of seemingly thin air. And so I think that's always been a very cool aspect of the job, and aspect of chemistry in general. So I think that would be the superpower that this particular job or industry would have. So that's all I have for you guys. Again, thank you guys for sending all the questions, and I hope I was able to answer some of them. So y'all have a great day, and hopefully we'll be in touch. Thank you.